you have a bunch of components. We have a cup that's lined with some form of stainless steel, I suppose. And we have a grinder that we're going to use to grind some quality beans that we have. And we have a cup of water that we use as a pour over. After I brew this, I'm going to show you how this whole thing is actually one thing. It's just one product, all in one, that you can use to go anywhere. I love this. I've used it for the past 2 years, and I bought it with my own money, so this is not sponsored in any way. And I have a few things that I really don't like about it, but what it gives me is actually far more than what it doesn't give me. So I'm thinking that I'm going to be continuing to use it for the foreseeable future unless something better comes out. The interesting thing is, for those who know Kalita and Kalita filters, they're pretty awesome. And this just happens to have a steel filter that is fantastic to make coffee, pour over coffee, with a lot of the oily stuff that steel filters are known to give. But small Kalita filters fit just fine in it, which to me is also a positive, because I love Kalita and this gives me practically the same taste. The issue is the grinder has to fit over this basket to grind. And when you grind over the mesh, the steel mesh, that's my only issue, is that you then either have to use it right away, or then you have to empty it onto the filter, then put the filter inside, and what that will do is you're going to have some coffee left in the steel, and that's going to confound your taste. And for a perfectionist, this is not the best thing to do. So I have come up with my own strategy to overcome this, which is I use a filter, one paper, all the time to grind over, and then I just store it in a cup, and I use it again to grind over. But I'm going to use a second one to brew. This might not make any sense, but it's going to make sense now. Okay? If you've seen my other video on how to use the Chemex, or even the same principles will apply for Kalita and V60. You have to measure your coffee, and you want to use a certain ratio. But on the go, you're not going to have a scale, and you're not going to have a lot of equipment. So this grinder is graded with 4 steps. I'm going to use the second step, and in my experience, this is about 18 grams of coffee. Okay, maybe 17 grams of coffee. And this cup is also graded with 2 lines, and I'm going to use the lower line for the second line. Okay? All right. So now, we have, oh, that smells fantastic. Smell, feel, smell again. Oh. Obviously, I do have a dosing spoon, but for the sake of the video, we're on the go, and so I'm not going to use a dosing spoon. I'm going to make this the way you would be making this. Not that you wouldn't have a dosing spoon, but anyways, you get the idea. Okay, and you just level it like that, and see, this is about perfect. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Okay, more or less. And now you have an actual conical burr inside of this. And it's designed in a way, it's got those like plastic columns, and this is all, from what I understood, some like medical grade plastic or high quality plastic. It's actually very well built. It's got a rubber grip that is branded, and I'll show you that at the end on the down side, so you can stabilize over any area that you want, or any like solid surface. And even this part, the grinder, you can actually unscrew and adjust on those steps. So you don't have infinite steps, but you have adjustable steps. So this is a grinder that I kind of can compare to the Hario Slim grinder in terms of the quality of the grind. So this is great on the go. It does take some muscle and it does take some time, but we all like to build some muscles. And while someone is grinding, you can go and finish some chores and do some emails. And to use this, you have to love the ritual of making the coffee as much as the act of drinking the coffee. And And I think it's a stress relieving exercise as you're grinding and the aromas are just coming up to your nose and priming you to that cup of coffee that you're gonna have in a little bit. So why not? But did you notice something? This is not closed. Almost all manual grinders have a lid. The steel column, or not steel, the plastic columns here are designed in a way that prevent the bounce back of beans. And this is actually quite genius. They advertise it as such. It does give a little bit of bounce. So if you can see here, there are a few beans that did actually bounce off, but it's not harmful at all. And it maintains this minimalist design that you can actually have on the go. So I love this. Okay, so now you unscrew your grinder and put it away. Now let's look at the quality of the grind. I'm actually going to bring this here. So it's not the most uniform, but it is relatively uniform. And once again, in my opinion, it's very comparable to the higher slim. You can touch it. And this is far better than anything you will get on like home appliances or like blade grinders. This is simply far better. And of course, we set the grind to be slightly coarser so that it's in the whole spirit of the actual manual specialty kind of settings. So slightly coarser grind and relatively standardized amount of beans, but using the volumetric scale by the lines or the slashes that. Did you see what I just did? I took this paper out. This is my grind. I put this paper in, and now I'm going to start the ritual of grinding. Now, what we need to do is we need to set a timer. So you can use a watch or a timer anywhere. And you start brewing the regular way. First, you wet your paper filter. Exactly. Now I'm just gonna level this. Okay. Now I'm gonna put it back. Okay. And fill my water up to the top. Because I don't have expensive equipment, before I started grinding, I poured some boiled water and I let it sit during the grind process. So that kind of brings the heat slightly down to the temperature that we want to do specialty kind of. So I'm obsessing about the little details, but I'm trying to prove that you don't need very expensive equipment. You just need good equipment to do a really good cup of coffee. This setup is more expensive than your commercial your commercial filter paper machine that you use as a regular home appliance, you know, over-the-counter things, but it is cheaper than buying the most expensive or the standard V60 and a burr grinder and that sort of stuff. So now let's start. Timer had started, and this is the pre-infusion phase. Now you'll see that the coffee will breathe for the next 30 seconds, and we will brew for a total of 2.5 to 3 minutes. Okay. Because this is a newer roast, this was roasted 4 days ago, I'll give it 40 seconds to breathe because I want more of the carbon dioxide to leave, and I want to see more of that doming effect happening in my coffee. I should probably put a timer. And now we start the brewing process. If you're brewing directly on the steel filter, it's going to be slower, so you need to pour more water. But if you are lifted above the steel filter with the paper filter, the water will channel faster, so you want to be careful not to pour too much at any given time. Those are just some tricks that you will find happening. And this is beautiful because you'll get the Kalita taste and you'll get the metal paper filter taste, the metal filter taste, which is more oily and more textured because you'll have more of the particulate matter of the coffee seeping in through the metal filter, where this will give you finer particles, finer filtering, so to speak. And one of the things I advise you is when you're brewing the coffee, the water, you want to maintain a certain level of water. It can fluctuate a little bit, but don't let it all seep through, then fill it again. Just kind of maintain a certain level until you're finished brewing completely. The only time you pour water, let that water seep through, is during the pre-infusion, where you're intentionally trying to give a break to the beans to once again breathe all that carbon dioxide trapped into the cells that were killed and then roasted. And because we are simulating a camping experience, we don't have cups to use. See, this filter, usually I will store that away and use it again, but for now, I'm just going to throw it out. Now, the last thing you do is you give it a little swirl to ensure that everything is spread out through. I'm going to take this cap off, and I'm going to pour you some inside the very thing we used as the pour-over kettle. And there is your cup of joe.
Thank you.
And enjoy.
Thank you.